Good evening. Welcome to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauber. I'm an employment law and business law attorney, and I host this weekly live talk radio show and this live video broadcast every Tuesday night from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., where I have guests who discuss some of the most innovative, novel, and challenging employment and business law issues that companies and entrepreneurs and employers are facing through these challenging times. Now, tonight, I'm very pleased to announce a very special guest here with us on the show. And my guest tonight is Patrice Tanaka, founder and chief joy officer of Joyful Planet LLC. Patrice, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and aloha.
Aloha to you too. I know you have some Hawaiian roots there that go back for a bit, that you trace back, and good to have you. I will introduce the topic. First, I'll just note a little something for our audience tonight, our loyal listeners. If I look different tonight, i.e. without the background, and if I look about 6'5" on the screen, and a weird angle, it's because I'm having some computer tech issues. Thank God for iPhones and cell phone footage. So we're making it happen. But if that looks a little unusual, maybe that's an added benefit. I look about 6'5" here. So, but great to have you on, Patrice, and hopefully everyone can hear me okay and see me. Good. Okay, so let me yes, great to have you indeed. Let me just introduce our topic, and then I'll talk a bit about Patrice's background, and then we can get to our questions. And our topic tonight, folks, is a purpose-filled employees and company success. And we're talking about really business owners and employers. The question is, have you been focused only on your company's mission or purpose? Right? Are you putting all your energy into defining your or the company's mission, your purpose, your goals, while perhaps neglecting to nurture and cultivate your employees in their quest to find their individual purpose so that they may be happier, more productive, and successful? You know, too often we find that employers and corporations are focused on cultivating this greater sense of purpose for the company or its CEO. And we all heard about various retreats and workshops to discover an organization's passion and their focus and role in the larger scheme. And that can be a driving force beyond the services or products provided. And that's a good start, but a lot of companies don't realize the value, which we'll talk about tonight, in focusing similar efforts on encouraging and facilitating the individual employee's journey, right, in finding their own life purpose. What brings the employee true joy? What is their greater mission of service in the world? How does that mission or purpose align with their work and with the company's goals and objectives? And how might it not align with the company? So in tonight's episode of Employment Law Today, as I mentioned, our guest is Patrice Tanaka, and she will share her beliefs and the methods of cultivating this purpose-filled and joy-filled experience for both the employer and the individual employees. I'm really, really pleased to have Patrice on the show tonight. And again, Patrice, thank you for your patience with some of the tech issues coming into the show on my end, but I think we're okay now.
Think so.
Great. I hear you loud and clear as well. All right, so I want to introduce you to our audience. And I mentioned that you are the founder and chief joy officer of Joyful Planet. Patrice is also a best-selling author, public speaker on business and life purpose, and she's a serial entrepreneur and co-founder of 3 award-winning PR and marketing agencies and the consultancy Joyful Planet, which focuses on helping individuals and organizations to discover and actively live their purpose to unleash greater success, fulfillment, and joy in their personal lives, workplaces, and communities. Patrice is also the co-author of the best-selling books Beat the Curve and Performance 360, where she writes about life and organizational purpose. And Patrice Tanaka has been honored by many professional and civic organizations, too numerous to mention, which is really impressive, Patrice. What's more important to know about Patrice is that she is based in New York City, but home to her is Hawaii. As she mentioned, aloha, that aloha spirit, where she was born and raised. And Patrice is committed to living her life with that aloha spirit. And you can finally reach Patrice via patrice@joyfulplanet.com or I'll give you a chance at the end of the show to share all of your social media and contact information. So Patrice, yeah, great to have you on and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eric. I'm excited to be here on the second day of spring. Yes,
That's right. It is the second day of spring, isn't it? It's
it is,
nice.
thankfully. Yes.
I went for a nice walk around the city on my lunch while taking lunch break today. Decided to eat while doing some work, and then just taking that time I usually allot to lunch, just walk around and check out the nice weather. Yeah, it was great to do that. So let me ask you, Patrice, a question there about you. If you could just tell us a bit more about yourself. Like, for example, how did your career initially start out, and what prompted you to found Joyful Planet and become an author?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I'm thrilled to be here. And thank you for that question. Let me think. Well, prior to starting Joyful Planet, which I did in January 2016, I had a long career in PR and marketing. In fact, over that time, 35 plus years, I co-founded 3 PR and marketing agencies, and I really loved, my time in PR. But after the third, acquisition and integration of my agency, I decided I would leave in August 2015 and do something else. I wasn't sure what. It wasn't going to be PR and marketing, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So, in thinking about, what my next consultancy would be, I just kind of surveyed my life and career to date, and I realized that the 2 most important things I ever did was, one, to discover and articulate the business purpose for my first agency, and then some years later discovered and articulated a life purpose for myself. And the result of these 2 actions were so powerful and produced so much of what I expressed in my business purpose and in my life purpose that, I realized that maybe I should focus on purpose in my consultancy, Joyful Planet, which is actually the name of my consultancy, as you said. But it's also my vision for the planet. If 9.7 billion people, is it 9.7 or 6.9? 7, I think it's 7.9 billion people are, yeah, exactly, and growing every day, are living their life purpose and leveraging their talents, their expertise, and their passion in service of other people and our planet. If so, together we could create a much more joyful planet. So I decided I'm going to try to make inroads in helping people, individuals, to discover so they can actively live their life purpose, and at the same time work with organizations to help them discover so they could operationalize their business purpose and contribute in that way. So my Joyful Planet is all about life purpose and organizational purpose. So I'm actually doing what I'm most passionate about, and every day is exciting for me and very fulfilling and very joyful too. So here we are today, and I'm talking to you about Joyful Planet. Thank you very much.
That's great, Patrice. I love what you said about sort of the imagining each person reaching, sort of actualizing their purpose, their potential, their joy, and what that might do for the planet. And I think it's a great point. We all read the news every day. Like, we see the tragedy of people who are clearly not living in a joyful or mindful way or compassionate way. So I think it's great that you were able, to take what you did for yourself in 2015, your own sort of, I hear like an inner journey, perhaps, right? And then you realize that this is what you wanted to do to help others cultivate awareness of their own purpose and joy. I think that's terrific. I can tell that you'd be a good guest when we first were connected. And, we use the word purpose, and I use the word mission a lot so far today. And, I think about how we hear those terms, purpose and mission, a lot these days, don't we? And we hear them in corporate circles, right? So I'm wondering, like, getting down to definitions, as a lawyer, I like to define terms that are out there. How do you define the terms purpose-driven or personal mission as they relate to, say, companies and perhaps individual employees and workers?
Yes, thank you for clarifying. Yeah. Um, yeah, a mission statement for organizations, including businesses, have really evolved over the past 50 years since management consultant Peter Drucker started writing about the importance of a company's mission statement in the 1970s, saying that a business is not defined by its name, statutes, or articles of incorporation. It is defined by the business mission. And he said, only a clear definition of the mission and purpose of the organization makes possible clear and realistic business objectives. Now, over the past 50 years, companies have actually taken that to heart. And what they've done at times is to articulate very lengthy mission statements, trying to cover a lot of territory, including their target customers and markets, the products and services that they offer, the geographic domain that they work in, the core technologies that they offer, and also the public image that they're hoping to project. Now, that's a lot of information to try to communicate in one sentence or one paragraph, right? And it can be mind-numbing and unmemorable for everyone, including key stakeholders. And those mission statements were meant for key stakeholders to really understand and to get behind and to get excited by. But if they're so mind-numbingly boring, nobody's going to memorize, nobody's going to remember these. So I think if you have a mission that is long and lengthy and full too much information, you also need to have a purpose to separately communicate, how your organization creates value for all of its stakeholders, not just its shareholders, but all of its including employees, customers, clients, suppliers, shareholders, and the community at large. And importantly, how your company or your organization serves the greater good. So a purpose statement, as you can tell, is going to be a lot more compelling, and it's going to really be pretty memorable if it's written well, to really get people to understand this is who we are and this is what we are proudly doing to serve everyone. Okay. Now, some of my favorite business purpose statements are succinct and memorable and compelling. Like, and I have a few examples. Deloitte, their business purpose is to make a positive, enduring impact that matters. That's only 7 words, okay? But make a positive, enduring impact that matters. That's kind of exciting, even for a B2B company like Deloitte, right? Google says their purpose is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And that's exactly, in a nutshell, what Google does. I mean, if they tried to cram every single product and service into their purpose, you'd lose people halfway. So their purpose really has to say how we serve the greater good, and they do. Microsoft's business purpose is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. That's 11 words, okay? That's pretty clear, right? And then Unilever, their business purpose statement is 4 words, the shortest business purpose that I know of. It's simply make sustainable living commonplace. 4 words. And you know that every single one of their 150,000 employees globally know what the business purpose of Unilever is, right? You
Right.
know that their R&D people know exactly what senior management expects of, innovation, right? They're not looking for incremental product and service enhancements. They're
Mhm.
looking for, products that make sustainable living commonplace. So the best thing that a company could do is to be very succinct and
Mhm.
leave no words to hide behind. Make every word work hard in your purpose statement and make it crystal clear,
Mhm.
especially for all of your employees. If you have 150,000 employees, you want to make sure all 150,000 know what you're focused on doing for
Right.
your stakeholders, right?
Let me just say one thing about that,
Yeah,
Patrice. I think certainly that succinct and brevity is so key and in terms of powerful. I'd
right.
love to talk more about that with you. We have our first commercial break. Time flies when we're having fun.
Okay.
So I'll just tell our audience that you are watching and listening to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauver, here tonight on Talk Radio NYC with my guest, our guest Patrice Tanaka of Dreadful Planet. When we come back, we'll talk more about purpose, including some of the initial steps that companies and employers can take to raise employees' individual awareness and discover their own purpose. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Mhm.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back, folks, to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauver, employment law and business law attorney, here tonight with our guest, my guest, Ms. Patrice Tanaka, who is the Chief Joy Officer, I love that title, Patrice, and founder of the consulting firm agency Joyful Planet. And we're talking about this issue of helping employees, and employers, but employees to discover their own purpose. And we're talking about how important it is for companies and business owners to encourage that individual purpose finding and soul searching. So Patrice, you really had some great points there. If I could just recap a couple of things that jumped out at me. You mentioned a few companies there, Google and Microsoft, and a couple others where they have a very short mission statement and just 5 words or 11 words. And I think I know what you're saying, because it's like, I think we've all seen those, 3-paragraph, say, mission statements that kind of they cover so much that they get diluted and watered down. And it's one thing we learn as attorneys in legal writing is that if you're more concise and direct and to the point and succinct, you're much more likely to make a powerful impact. than if it's sort of lengthy and flowery and, legalese. So that's just good to know, that you share that brevity being key. And I wanted to ask you, something more about this. In your books, Beat the Curve and Performance 360, I know you discuss how companies can have more productivity and sustain happier employees and increase customer and client satisfaction by cultivating a purpose and joy. So I guess my question for you there is, can you share with us, Patrice, what are some of the initial steps that companies and employers can take to raise the employees' individual awareness of their own purpose and mission?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Well, I think first companies should articulate their own business purpose, right? So that employees understand what the company is trying to do. And then once they've done that, invite employees to find a way to align their individual purpose with the organization's purpose, and in this way create greater engagement to drive the business forward. Now, the way that employers can really support employees to do this, because discovering your life purpose is something everybody thinks is important, but people don't usually think it's an urgent thing to do. I actually think it's important and urgent. And in fact, if you do it now rather than later, it will inform every decision that you make going forward to help you to efficiently accomplish what's most important to you in life. So if employers would say, hire someone like me who actually conducts workshops and webinars like Discover Your Life and Leadership Purpose for their employees to help them understand why it's important for them to discover, so they can actively live their life purpose sooner rather than later. And then I work with employees one-on-one to help them finalize their life purpose statement, because I really believe that purpose statements should be accurate, inspiring, and galvanizing, because that's how you're going to help employees to embrace their purpose and then actively live that purpose. If their own life purpose doesn't inspire them to action, then it's not really working that hard as a life purpose statement. And once they have their life purpose statement and have clarity about that, then they can try to find the alignment between their individual life purpose and the purpose of the organization. And employers should encourage people to find that alignment, because what you want to do is really kind of unleash the passion and purpose of everyone in your workforce to help you drive the business purpose of the organization, right? So it's an important step to create that engagement to help drive the organization forward.
Got it. I see. So I hear some specifics there. I hear, right, the goals and what you're doing with the companies, for example, helping them to cultivate this awareness within their employees. I heard you mention some steps, if I heard correctly, Patrice. Did you mention like workshops or retreats or focusing on one-on-one counseling? Are those all the sort of like the action steps that you take with employers to help employees discover their purpose?
Here's the thing, because I'm not trying to create busy work for myself, right? I've started and run 3 agencies, and it's all about efficiency,
Right.
creating great work, producing great work in the most efficient way. So when I thought about helping individuals to discover so they can more actively live their life purpose, I actually thought about what is the most efficient way to do this. And so what I offer is an hour-long webinar. So I'm trying to make the case to employees for why they should make time to discover so they can actively live their life purpose. Then I work with them very efficiently via email only to help them finalize their life purpose. They get an 11-question questionnaire, and they are guided to write the first iteration of their life purpose statement. Once they answer those 11 questions, their own responses to those 11 questions should inform the life purpose statement they come up with. And again, that's the first iteration of their purpose. And then they email it to me. I look and see what they wrote in terms of their responses to the 11 questions. I read what they wrote as the first iteration of their life purpose statement. And I would say 95% of the time, I will have to tweak. I always use the word tweak. And sometimes it's a major restatement or putting the hamburger into between the bun because they're missing that. And really helping them to craft something that is inspiring and galvanizing. And a lot of times people who aren't used to writing and not used to claiming their power they write in a very understated way, which is not going to inspire and galvanize them. So I write it as if they're the hero or shero of their own life. So they get excited by their own life purpose statement and actually want to live that purpose. So,
oh, sorry. Yeah, I hear that. It seems as if there's two things going on there, right? I think number one, I'm hearing in excellent detail the ways in which you help the employees working one-on-one with them. Some examples of the email questionnaire. I like that part about making them the hero or shero, they-ro of the story. Just to sort of make it more powerful and not understated. I think people have, you're right, often a difficult time owning their own power and owning their own purpose. Like we're taught, we shouldn't brag, we shouldn't boast, we shouldn't,
right.
Right. But yet, owning one's own power is not becoming power mad. We're not talking about, conquering, the different continents here. We're talking about, say, getting in touch with one's awareness of what they want to do, be of service, give value, receive value. And so I guess I do wonder, can the employers also create a certain environment that cultivates an employee feeling like, say, safe enough to explore their purpose? Like the employer themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, Microsoft has done a lot of work and spent a lot of money to determine that psychological safety is key to high performing teams, right? And so it would behoove any employer to try to create psychological safety. And and this process of helping employees to discover their individual life purpose is kind of evidence of, we want to support you. And here is a specific way that we're going to help you to do that, because it's in your best interest and in our best interest and in humanity's best interest if you are fully cognizant of what you are meant to do in your very brief and limited time on Earth, right? I mean, and this is a great professional development opportunity for employees, because it says to the employee, wow, they're offering me this opportunity. And if I quit, I take that with me. And if I stay, it's all about developing me as a person, not just developing my professional skills, right? So it really places value on the employee as a person. And we want you to develop as a person, because you're going to be better, yes, at work, but you're going to be better, in your whole life. And that is the most enlightened, I think, kind of employer that employees are hungry for.
Right. I definitely see that being a trend that employers need to understand, that it's not a zero-sum game. It's not as if the employee's win is the employer's loss. It's actually the opposite. It's a win-win. And I want to hear more about that from you, but we do have to take our next commercial break.
Oh.
When we come back, we'll be talking more about the benefits to companies investing in such a cultivation of employee purpose. And we'll talk about what happens when employees discover a purpose. What if the purpose is maybe not aligned with the company? So stick around, folks. You're listening to and watching Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauver, here tonight with my guest, Patrice Tanaka, right here on talkradio.nyc. We'll be right back.
I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law business law attorney and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. Once again, I'm your host, Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney. That's my passion, my mission, my purpose is to help companies and business owners with their employment, labor, and business needs and challenges. And I'm joined tonight by another passionate, really visionary person here. Our guest, Patrice Tanaka, Chief Joy Officer and also founder of Joyful Planet, a consultative agency really focused on helping employers, companies, and their employees find their mission, find their purpose, right? Find their soul, what drives them. So Patrice, you had some really great, points so far. And I also appreciate, I'm in a little bit different situation with some tech issues going on here on my side, but hopefully you guys can all hear me and see me okay on the screen. I don't see myself, but hopefully you can see me and hear me as we're having a conversation. Great. Okay. So Patrice, I wondered, we're talking about the importance of finding purpose. Can we talk a little bit about what happens, let's say, if an employee is in doing this work, they're soul searching, they find their purpose. What if the purpose does not align with the company's? Was that a quote unquote waste of time for the company? Was that a loss, or was it actually maybe perhaps a benefit?
Here's the thing. If you don't know what your purpose is, then you think you're not living your purpose, right? And so a lot of times people are somewhat unfulfilled, dissatisfied at their companies, and they blame it on the employer. But if you don't know what your purpose is, there's no way you can actively and fully live your purpose. Because if you had clarity about your life purpose and you're a smart thinking person, you could probably figure out a way how to live your purpose more fully through the vehicle of your company, right? But if you don't know your purpose and your employer is scared to help you discover your life purpose because they think that then you might think that your purpose is not to work at their company, it's really a lose-lose, because a lot of people feel somewhat unfulfilled because they don't have clarity about their life purpose. So they assume that it's because of their employer that they're not able to have a purposeful life, but it's really not the fault of an employer. But I think it is the fault of an employer if they're afraid to help their employees discover their life and leadership purpose. So, and here's the thing, you've heard of the Great Resignation, right? So many people are leaving. Now, it not surprising to me, the past 2 years of pandemic have really, caused people to really evaluate their lives, right? And a lot of people have found it, somewhat lacking, somewhat less fulfilling than they think it should be. And I think that because they don't have clarity about their life and leadership purpose, they're just assuming it's because of their job. I don't think that's the case. I think it's if they had greater clarity, they could understand what their purpose is. And they shouldn't expect that they should be able to live their purpose 100% through their job. It's called a life purpose because you live it throughout your entire life, in part through your job, in part through your personal life. And that's how you live your life purpose. So anyway, so that's a reason that I think employers should try to support employees in discovering their life and leadership purpose, because people are not, willingly doing it on their own. They don't even know that that's what's missing, and that's why they're feeling unfulfilled. But an employer who is reading about how you can motivate and incentivize and galvanize your workforce kind of understands that, being purpose driven might be helpful to my workforce.
There's a lot there to unpack. Some great points there, right? I can maybe give some observations. I think that you talked about. This is fantastic. But one, you touched upon a point that I've heard from different guests and different people, which is like that it kind of goes in line with don't put the cart before the horse. Like if you think that you're going to find satisfaction and the job will give you a life purpose, or will make you feel fulfilled, that it could happen. It could be a stroke of luck. Maybe it sparks a spark in you and you find your purpose. But I hear that if you don't know what your purpose is and you're unsatisfied, then going from company A to company B to company C is not going to fix it, right? You'll still be, it's almost like people who might be unhappy and they pull a geographic, because I heard the expression, they move across the country to Seattle or Los Angeles, and that could be great to get a fresh start, but if they're not internally resolved with certain issues, those issues will follow them in a suitcase.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you're saying?
I know we both want to talk because, but you reminded me of one thing. The only CEO that I've ever heard talk about wanting their employees to live their life purpose through the vehicle of the company is Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, right? And I told you earlier what Microsoft's business purpose is to empower every individual and every organization on the planet to achieve more, right? So what Nadella wants is for every Microsoft employee to actually live their purpose, their individual life purpose through the vehicle of Microsoft. So they can say, I don't work for Microsoft. Microsoft works for me. And if you think about it, that is the best retention strategy ever, right? If your employee thinks working at your company is working for them. And so Nadella is having his employees think about, you find the alignment between your life purpose and the purpose of the organization. And that's the way he's hoping to unleash the power and purpose of every employee at Microsoft to grow the business. So it's not a surprise to me that Microsoft under Nadella was the first company in corporate America to achieve $1 trillion valuation, right? You need to unleash, the power and purpose of and passion of your workforce. I mean, that is the greatest unleash that you could do, right? Or an employer could do.
Absolutely right. And I think that's a good point, Patrice. I think that on one hand, when we talk about employees and their purpose, and they unleash it and they become more powerful, more productive. And it's funny because we talk about aligning purpose, and I can imagine or envision, I think you and I have talked about this in previously, different ways that can happen. Like I could see scenario number one, I think, where a company might say to an employee, hey, if you're passionate about, climate change or the environment, you can maybe head up a part of our company that works on, say, green clients, green customers, bringing them in, or maybe incorporating that into your job. Or if you're passionate about, say, civil rights, like, can you bring in some work if you're working for an organization where you maybe focus on a civil rights cause? And so there's ways to align it with what the company does, or maybe there's ways to align your work with the company so that you feel fulfilled to go out into the world on your time off, on your weekends, your evenings, your vacations, and do your mission, do your work. So I know we talked about that, like preparing for the show, kind of what there are different ways to align a purpose. So I think it's important. You talked about the need for aligning a purpose, and we're talking about the different ways that employers and employees can do that, right?
Right. But the first step is having clarity about your life purpose, right? So that you can actively live it. And I find that, as I said to you, that, there's a big trend in corporate America to be purpose-driven organizations, right? Because there's a lot of research showing that purpose-driven organizations significantly outperform profit-only focused organizations. I believe the next level up is purpose-driven organizations driven by purpose-driven employees. And that is the piece that employers have not yet addressed, because there's fear that, well, if I help my employees to discover their life and leadership purpose, they might discover that it's not to work for me. And that is not the worst thing in the world, because if they cannot find alignment between their individual purpose and your business purpose, then they shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be taking a spot that someone else who can find that alignment should be taking up. Okay. So fear should not, be the reason that employers don't want to support employees in discovering their life and leadership purpose, because it's only going to be to their benefit. And that's the research that McKinsey and company have been doing over the past 2 years. The intersection of individual purpose and organizational purpose. And they have some pretty impressive statements to make about this, saying that people who are living their purpose at work report higher levels of well-being that are 5 times higher than employees who are not living their purpose at work. And that employees who are living their purpose at work are 4 times more likely to report higher levels of engagement, right? Which is what the Holy Grail is. Everyone wants engagement. Well, you've got to engage employees at their point of interest, their self-interest, right? And, there's so much more that they've revealed through their studying of the intersection of life purpose and organizational purpose. They say that people who live their purpose at work are more productive than people who don't. They're also healthier, more resilient, and more likely to stay at the company. These are all great reasons to help your employees discover their life and leadership purpose, and then invite them to find the alignment with your business purpose.
Absolutely. I think that's so well said. I think you make an excellent point there, Patrice, that if an employee discovers their purpose is not in alignment, not to be here, wherever here is, I think then the company and the employer are better off, perhaps maybe parting ways. And I think you have such good points about the value, the benefits. And we want to talk more about this. We've got our last commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Patrice more about this issue and more about the greater need for purpose-driven employees in light of COVID-19. So stick around, Talk Radio NYC. You're listening to and watching Employment Law Today. Patrice Tanaka, Joyful Planet. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Calling all pet lovers.
Pet Avengers, assemble!
On the Professionals and Animal Lovers show, we believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. It mirrors that bond between pets and their owners. Through this program, we come together to learn, educate, and advocate.
Join us live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back, folks, to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauber, Employment Law Attorney, here tonight with my guest, a Chief Joy Officer and founder of Joyful Planet, Patrice Tanaka. And Patrice, we really, I think, have some great topics tonight. I appreciate, your insights and your vision into this important topic of employers helping their employees discover their purpose and align that purpose, if possible, with the company. I think we've covered some, really good ground here, and I wanted to ask you as a last question about something you alluded to earlier in the show about COVID-19 and people, discovering their purpose or having awakenings. I'm just wondering, do you see a greater need for purpose-driven employees in light of the pandemic, and how has the pandemic impacted this issue of finding one's purpose?
Yeah, well, we've all spent a lot of time, many of us working from home, right? And we've had a lot of time to rethink and reevaluate our lives. We've seen loved ones die. We've seen, loved ones become incredibly sick and worried that they might not recover. We ourselves maybe have gotten sick and wondered if we were ever going to feel better again. All of those things make us rethink our life, right? And to try to, think about how we want to live our one very brief and precious life on earth. And I think that is what is making people a lot more introspective and thinking about their purpose and how they'll leverage their talents, their expertise, and their passion in service of other people and our planet. And one of the silver linings, I think, of the pandemic is that I've never experienced being in a global predicament with every other country in the world, right? And I think this has all brought us together and showed us how vulnerable we are. And it's not as if you can just close your borders and you're protected and free, right? Right. The virus is a plane ride away, right? And the virus may already be in your country. So I think it's made us realize we need to work together to fight this COVID-19. We need to work together in a global community. We need to support one another locally, and we need to support one another, one-to-one, family, friends, neighbors, that kind of thing. And when that awareness, kind of penetrates people. They do think about, what am I doing,
Right.
To how am I making the world a better place for my having been here? And what am I going to contribute before I leave the earth? Those become higher order in terms of importance than just, a promotion, a salary increase. I mean, we're talking about life and death, right?
Absolutely. I think if I can jump in there with I want to really highlight an interesting point that you made, just to highlight what you're saying. I hear you about this idea that, look, the pandemic has sort of put people's priorities into focus for them. And I hear that what you're saying about this, like sort of people, working from home, maybe they're not spending most of their day commuting and back and forth for at least for a long time. We see people going back to work now, but a lot of people were home for over a year without any kind of, so there's a lot of more downtime to really contemplate. And what do we contemplate? Well, as you pointed out, Patrice, good point. A lot of people start to contemplate their mortality and their commonality with other people. And, the question of like, how much time do we really get on this earth? We truly don't know. And so the idea is to make the most of it, which really aligns right back with what our topic is tonight, right back with what you were saying about, you live your best life by knowing your purpose, aligning with that. And I think that goes for employees and employers as well. So I think that's an excellent point that I wanted to sort of bring out that I heard in what you were saying.
Yes, thank you. I think that's really important that, employers have to recognize that, yes, they have a business purpose because their purpose is to grow the company and, to make it profitable. But they also have to take into account the workforce, the engaged, workforce that they need to have to be able to do that in light of what we've all experienced during the past 2 years. And how do you engage a workforce that is questioning, life, their mortality, and, are they living a life that is fulfilling? And I think employers can actually deliver on that fulfillment piece if they had the courage to support their employees in asking the big question, right? As Mark Twain said, the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. If you as an employer are involved in one of the two most important days of a person's life, there is going to be some appreciation for that. Because of this workshop that my employer provided for us, I now have clarity about my life and leadership purpose. And I know how I want to, maximize the limited time I have here on earth.
I love that Mark Twain quote about the two most important days of your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why, that's your purpose. I think that's great. I hadn't heard that one. And I think for the employers, if it's one of those days they'll be around for, it's likely the latter, second day, since their employee's birth would have been before they started the job. So I think that's an excellent point you make there. And yeah, I think we have this like sort of, it's like the individual purpose and then the greater purpose. And you can't serve the greater purpose if there's not clarity for each individual. So it kind of comes full circle to what you were saying.
You mean you can't serve, and an organization needs to be purpose driven, but in order to fully realize the potential of that the organization has, they need to be able to unleash and unlock, the individual purpose of their employees, because to create that engagement that is the holy grail of management. How can we create greater engagement to help drive the business forward? So,
right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Patrice. And, we've got about a couple of minutes or so left in the show, 2 minutes left, in fact. What I want to do is I want to give you about a minute or so just to share some contact information, how can they find you, get in touch with you? The floor is all yours for a minute.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, my email is patrice@joyfulplanet.com. If you go to my website, joyfulplanet.com, I have a lot of information on there. And I'm pretty present on social media, Patrice Tanaka on LinkedIn, Patrice Tanaka on Facebook, and Patrice Tanaka on Instagram. And on Twitter, that's the only handle that is @sambagal, SAMBAGAL, because that was during my ballroom dance phase where samba was my favorite dance. So, since I created that Twitter handle in 2007, I wasn't even doing Joyful Planet at that time. So
Right.
That's @sambagal.
Wonderful. And I'm just going to spell that in case for those people that might be listening tonight, but don't have your that spelling. That's Patrice Tanaka, PATRICE. And Tanaka is T as in Tom, A as in apple, N as in Nancy, A, K as in kite, A as in apple. And Patrice, I want to thank you so much. The time really flies when we're having fun, and you gave us such good information, insights, and valuable just points to consider. So I want to tell everyone out there tonight that if you like the show, tell your friends, tell your colleagues to tune in Tuesday nights, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to Talk Radio NYC. And the station itself has some wonderful programming. They have great shows Monday through Friday throughout the week. So you can check it out at www.talkradio.nyc. I'm your host, Eric Sauver. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Patrice, for being here. A wonderful evening. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone. Aloha, Eric. Thank you.
Aloha indeed. Yes. Really appreciate your time.